Welcome everyone to the Omniverse of Nick, and part 7 to What If Cliffjumper Survived. Now, like always, before we get into today's episode, be sure to smash that like button and subscribe to the Omniverse of Nick so you don't miss anything that is going to come the way of this channel, and just generally support it in all of its entirety for future old stories, all that. And to have your stories possibly become a reality on the channel. Once you guys get all that out of the way, we will resume the Cliffjumper story today with part 7. Now, in the last episode, we covered Starscream finally taking action after Unicron was sealed with the Matrix and Orion and all that. Starscream's finally ready to act with the synthetic energon and his clones. Much earlier, because of killing Ratchet and all that. Spoiler alert for those who didn't watch, more or less. But anyways, while Unicron's whole thing was going on, one of the clones Starscream actually had to kill. Not only because of the treachery, because that was a thing, but because of the synthetic energon side effects, which Starscream should have expected and now knows that the formula wasn't completed. And were it to be, this probably wouldn't have happened, even though it's Starscream, he's traitorous. But this just gives him more of a motivator, if anything, to succeed with the other clones he has, and just to work better with the synthen that he has to work with, and to make better that he can. And he still goes to formalize a plan while he's doing all this to get revenge on the bots and cons. Him and one of the clones will try to find the Autobots, and the other two clones will find the warship to equalize the revenge. At the warship, the two clones enter. Not noticed yet, one of the clones reaches the room with Orion Pax in it, and yeah, it's the same as the original Starscream and Orion's conversation, except with the clone, it's different, sort of, mildly different. And the synthen, even though Starscream knows how to better operate with it, doesn't mean that it's fully going to work, especially with the clones, even if it's better even before Ratchet got killed, and you guys more or less get what I mean. The other clone slices and dices any con in his way, while also trying to remain discreet and out of the way of anyone. But that doesn't help him for long with killing some of the cons, and eventually Megatron and Soundwave are right in front of him, right near the control room, with Arachnid right behind Starscream, and just shaking her head, smiling evilly, and preparing herself to fight, because even before Starscream shot a rocket at her and the whole Insecticon deal in canon, they still had kind of a rivalry going. So Arachnid prepares to fight this clone, not knowing it's a clone. But Megatron says he'll deal with Starscream personally, for worry of Orion Pax seeing all this and all that, not knowing the other clones with him. And he just shoots this clone and just kills him with little problem, except the synthen helps to at least fight off the blast for a moment. So all he has going for him. But the other clone hears the shooting and hears cons coming down the lane towards him. He tries to run like the normal Starscream at this time, but gets shot down and killed. Meanwhile, the real Starscream and the second clone with him, the other clone, the only other one, are trying to find the Autobots, but to no avail. So, eventually, Starscream just says, if they just keep on looking like this, they're never going to find the Autobots. They moved bases and they had an idea, or at least he did, but unlike the warship, they could be anywhere. I mean, the warship's like the same, but with the Autobots, it's much harder. So Starscream tells the clone that he's got a better plan. with the comlinks and better radio chatter with his clones, he was able to hear and feel, obviously, the deaths and what was happening, especially with Orion, Optimus, whatever. So now Starscream, even if he wasn't there, he still knows what happened. And he can use this all to get an advantage, lure the bots to him, not needing a medical kit, and then sneak up on them and get them that way. It's convoluted, but he thinks that it will work. RC still invades the ship and gets ground bridged by Soundwave. Bulkhead gets very angry because there's no Ratchet or Optimus and it's just Bulkhead. Now Cliff knows that since they tried to get Optimus back and it didn't work, that they really do have to go through with going to Cybertron first, because this didn't work and they just all stew over this fact. But soon enough, Cliffjumper and RC get a high-frequency signal with an embedded message, and Cliffjumper reads it, and it's from Starscream. RC, immediately after hearing this, tells Cliff to avoid any notion of talking with Starscream, especially when she brings up Ratchet and the fact that Optimus is their concern. Starscream? They should, if anything, just track him down and kill him. But she doesn't even care enough to want to do that. But she also does at the same time. It's very mixed emotion, especially with Ratchet's passing. But Cliff says even with that, him and Optimus, they have a responsibility towards Starscream after what happened. Especially him. So hearing him out, taking him down, it doesn't matter. They gotta do this. At least in his mind, that's how he feels. And he reads the message, and it says that Starscream knows about information about their leader, and he has a prize and knowledge for them if they both come alone. And when they do, Cliffjumper and RC immediately targets Starscream with both her blasters straight in his face, because she ain't playing. Even if it wasn't Cliffjumper, she still ain't exactly gonna be all uppity with Starscream. And Cliffjumper's the next to raise his blaster, slowly, and says Starscream, he better get to the point quick, because he ain't got too much more patience than RC. But Starscream, with his Synthen, just smiles, and Cliff and RC can see the Synthen eyes and everything, and this just makes RC even more angry, and says that he better start talking or whatever the prize or whatever before she just decides to go in all blasting, because she's really about to. But Starscream finally speaks and says that he does have knowledge, and he did mention a prize. But, and then he snaps his fingers, and the clone, the only other clone that was with him, comes out right behind them, and now both of them, with the Synthen, aim their rockets directly at Cliff and RC. And the real Starscream just says, if you want the information and what I promised to give you, you're gonna have to get through me and my clone here first. And now it's an all-out fight. Cliff and RC versus Starscream and his other clone with the Synthen. And at first, the battle seems even, but Starscream and his clone, especially with the Synthen, this throws Cliff and RC off guard for a time. It surprises them because they should have expected this and didn't with the clone. And Starscream just feels a sense of like, I will finally get my hands on Cliff, especially his partner. But soon enough, Cliff and RC begin to take the fight seriously. The rage over Ratchet, their partnership, and just their unwavering resolve to take Starscream down now kicks in. And they actually manage to get Starscream on the ground and kill the clone. So no more clones, and Starscream's now on the ground. But it didn't come without a cost. RC and Cliff, they're injured. Not like gravely, but they are injured to the point where they can barely put up a fight, and they've almost exhausted everything they have. But Starscream, he still has the Synthen effect, and he stands up. He's injured too, just not as badly, because the clone more or less did half the fighting for him. And now he comes towards them and says, "You were supposed to finish me to get what you want." He raises his arm, preparing to strike them, and both the bots' partners close their eyes, preparing to die. But they open their eyes. Nothing's happened. They're still alive. And they're both surprised by this. But Starscream just smiles at them, saying that, for one, they put up enough of a fight that he won't terminate them, and consider it an even package for letting him in, even if it came at a cost of their friend, which he doesn't bring up too much as to not stir them and have to kill them. And says that he did promise to give them information and everything, and he ain't got too much fight left in him, even if it doesn't look like it. And he offers to share what he knows, and says about his clones going to the Khan's warship, and that he had stationed both parties to go find them and the Khans, but they weren't expecting Optimus, and they were on the ship. So he tells him about Orion Pax and all that, but RC, she just cuts in right near the end of the story, surprised to hear all this, but then angry again, saying they already know about Optimus. But Starscream, this takes him by surprise, like canon, and Cliff is now getting frustrated, feeling more fight in him, and saying that unless you know where Megatron's space bridge is, then this was all just a ploy to get us here so you could kill us. You might as well just get it over with right now, and I bet you the prize was just our passing. But this catches Starscream's attention like canon about the space bridge, and now he tells them what they know, what he knows about the space bridge, and he did promise to give them something in return, along with this info, and presents a small container with synthen for the both of them to share, and saying that this will help them get their leader back, and consider it a small sorrow memoir to their old friend Ratchet, which angers and relieves RC and Cliff. It would be a very weird moment. Meanwhile, Orion is slowly getting suspicious of Megatron. Bulkhead and Bumblebee, along with Agent Fowler, being the new Ratchet, all guard the space bridge and take it over. And with Cliff holding the key to Vector Sigma to revive Optimus to the way he was, RC, of course, goes with him, and both of them have just a small portion of synthetic energon to help them with their speed and just to make the journey go. Once they get to the place where they go to get the key to Vector Sigma in, right at Kaon, they are attacked by the Insecticon. But RC is able to hold her own much more sufficiently with the synthen guiding her. Cliff is ready to help because with both of them, especially even with this small portion of synthen, they can take this Insecticon down. But Fowler just radio chats to Cliff saying, no, RC can handle this, especially with that little bit of synthen. It's not both of your jobs to worry about that. It's your job to get Optimus back, or he would say Prime, because that was Fowler's main way of saying Optimus's name. RC even tells Cliff, that she has got this, and that Optimus comes first. And through a lot of convincing and dodging the Insecticon, Cliff says very reluctantly he's going to go, but he expects to see his partner in one piece and not end up like Ratchet. And RC promises. And Cliff just books it straight into the tunnel. And with RC and her synthen, she's able to give the Insecticon a run for its money. But she isn't able to take it down. And eventually, it starts to overpower her slowly but surely, her exuding quite a bit of force and still putting up a great fight in the end much better than she did. Meanwhile, Cliff eventually reaches the place to put in the key to Vector Sigma and revive the Matrix. But scraplets begin to circulate around the ceiling right at the entranceway, and this is bad news. Especially if you guys watched the second part and know what happened to the old Autobot base. Yeah, with Cliff here and not Jack, even he knows that with scraplets, he could die here, but he right away comes up with a plan, and with the Synthen guiding him, he books it at the fastest speed he can go right out of the entranceway, with the scraplets following in hot pursuit. And Vector Sigma and the Matrix are reviving without the scraplets biting onto it. The Insecticon, who finally got RC off its tail, is into the tunnel, and it's right in the middle of the tunnel where Cliff sees the Insecticon finding him and knows that with scraplets behind him and the Insecticon in front, he can't afford to stop. So he quickly gets out of vehicle mode, shoots at the Insecticon, jumps over it, and goes straight back into vehicle mode. And the Insecticon staggers, but then follows right behind Cliff. And the scraplets follow right behind the Insecticon. So it's like a full-on race for their lives. All of them, even though the scraplets aren't really fighting for anything. You guys get the point. RC begins to go in the tunnel, waking up, and she sees Cliff just booking it out of there without the Matrix, and Cliff's just screaming at her, "Go now!" at the top of his lungs, or robotic lungs, or whatever, and it's just telling her to go, and both of them just go straight into vehicle mode, drive at the fastest that they can go, with the Synthen definitely helping, even if it's a bit, with their speed. Soon enough, they're out of the tunnel, and they see the Insecticon almost out, coming straight towards them. And with everything they've got, they fire every single blasting shot that they can with Cliff's word, and it's a very reminiscent moment to when they fought Shockwave, and this actually gives the Insecticon major damage towards its front, but it does not kill him, or it, but it does slow him down enough so that scraplets swarm and devour the Insecticon, which was Cliff's entire point, literally split-second thing. And with this, they go into the tunnel at the fastest speed that they can go, grab the Matrix, and then they have to swerve around. Even if the scraplets had devoured the Insecticon by then, they are able with the Synthen to barely avoid them and get to the space bridge. It's very narrow and very, very stressful for Cliff and RC. Meanwhile, Orion has fully gotten onto Megatron, and Megatron has found the space bridge and goes to confront the Autobots. And Fowler being there, Megatron just has to kick him out of the way, pretty much, and everything. But Bulkhead and Bumblebee, they face Megatron, but without Ratchet, which would be the same fight, except there wouldn't be a few extra blows dealt to Megatron in that sense. Orion escapes the cons, finds the space bridge, barely puts up a fight against Megatron, and then RC, she comes booking it out of the space bridge and confronts Megatron, giving a tiny bit more of a fight, but still nothing in terms to Megatron. And Orion turns, and Cliff is there with the revived Matrix of Leadership, and restores Optimus to the way he was. And with this, Optimus just mercilessly, like he did, but even more so, just pounds on Megatron, and all the bots go back to the base. After this, Cliff is very happy to see Optimus back, especially knowing that he had succeeded, but just barely, and they were able to do it. And Optimus, after hearing about all of what's happened, he looks at Cliffjumper a much different way now, and says that Cliff has truly earned the title of Warrior in Team Prime, and Ratchet would be very proud. What will happen now? With Cliffjumper being like pretty much the second in terms to Optimus besides Ultra Magnus, what will happen with the story now going further and with Starscream?
Why am I asking you all these questions?
find out in the next episode on the Omniverse of Nick. You guys didn't think this was the end of the video, did you? Well, the Omniverse of Nick has a new feature. A sneak peek at what's next to arrive.